The young coati was searching inside the ear of an animal many times its size. The outer fold was covered with dense clusters of ticks. One swollen parasite sat deeper near the base of the ear. The coati gripped it carefully and pulled. The tick came loose and dropped into the wet leaves below. A second coati saw it fall. Both animals rushed toward the same prey. Their short chase crossed directly beneath the tapir's heavy head. The tapir lifted its snout and turned toward the movement. Then its chest began rising from the ground. The adult coatis moved away immediately, but the youngest remained beside the fallen tick near one enormous front foot. The tapir shifted its weight. The foot lifted above the coati. To understand why the young animal had taken this risk, we have to return to earlier that morning. At first light, 3 white-nosed coatis searched through the wet leaf litter of a Central American rainforest. They did not move in a perfect line. Each animal inspected a different patch of leaves, mud, or decaying wood. The youngest coati overturned one damp leaf and exposed a small dark beetle. Before it could reach the prey, one of the adults took it. The young coati continued toward a rotting branch. It pushed its pointed muzzle beneath the bark and scratched through the soft material. Only a few ants and tiny larvae appeared. Food was present, but every small meal required another search. The young coati moved farther along the forest floor. Near a muddy trail, it stopped beside a deep, rounded footprint. The track was far wider than its paw. Fresh mud had been pressed outward around the edges. Several flies drifted low above the same path. The coatis began following the trail through the vegetation. The source appeared between the trees. A large adult Baird's tapir stepped onto the muddy path. Its dark body was covered with an exceptionally heavy tick infestation. Dense clusters surrounded both ears. More ticks covered the forehead, cheeks, and sides of the flexible snout. Irregular patches extended across the neck, shoulders, back, flanks, and lower belly. The eyes remained clear. The nostrils were open, but the tapir repeatedly flicked its ears and shook the skin across its shoulders. It stopped beside a low branch and rubbed one side of its snout against the wood. Most of the ticks remained firmly attached. The coatis moved away from the path as the much larger animal approached. The tapir did not pursue them. It stopped in a small wet clearing and stood quietly for several moments. Then it lowered onto its front knees. Its heavy body settled onto one side near the coatis. The unusual posture exposed the tapir's flank, shoulder, and belly. The coatis remained cautious. One adult approached the outer edge of the tapir's body. At first, it searched through pieces of dried mud trapped against the skin. A small beetle moved beneath one flake. The coati caught it immediately. Then something else moved inside the fold behind the tapir's front leg. Several ticks were attached close together in the protected skin. Most were small. 2 had swollen after feeding. The adult coati gripped one parasite and pulled it free. It swallowed the tick and inspected the same fold again. The young coati watched from several steps away. It had spent the morning searching for scattered insects. Now, one large animal carried a concentrated source of prey across its body. The young coati moved closer. A second adult searched along the tapir's lower belly. It picked through mud, loose hair, and small ticks hidden inside the skin folds. The tapir twitched the skin across its flank. All 3 coatis stepped away. The movement stopped. The tapir continued breathing slowly against the ground. The adults returned to separate feeding areas. One searched the shoulder. Another remained near the belly. The young coati approached the neck. The tick density increased toward the head. Clusters covered the base of the ear and continued around the outer rim. The young coati climbed onto the tapir's shoulder. It placed its paws between the thickest clusters and moved toward the ear. The tapir flicked the ear suddenly. The coati lost its balance for a moment and gripped the short hair along the shoulder. It moved backward, but a larger swollen tick remained visible deeper inside the outer ear fold. The young animal stared at it. One adult coati also noticed the same parasite. Both moved toward the ear. The juvenile reached it first. It closed its front teeth around the swollen body and pulled. The tick remained attached. The tapir turned its head slightly. The young coati adjusted its footing and pulled again. The parasite finally came free, but the sudden release caused it to fall from the coati's mouth. The tick dropped down the side of the tapir's face and landed in the leaves. Both coatis jumped from the shoulder. They reached the ground at nearly the same moment. The adult moved toward the tick from one side. The juvenile rushed from the other. Their competition carried them directly beneath the tapir's head. The tapir lifted its snout and swung it toward the movement. The young coati passed close to the heavy jaw and moved behind the front leg. The tapir became restless. Its front feet shifted in the mud. The adult coatis retreated toward the edge of the clearing. The juvenile remained beside the tick. The tapir began lifting its chest from the ground. Mud compressed beneath its body. The shoulder rose above the young coati. The tapir placed more weight onto one front leg. The other foot lifted. The young coati finally abandoned the parasite. It jumped toward an exposed root at the edge of the clearing. The tapir's foot descended into the place where the coati had been standing. Mud and wet leaves pushed outward beneath the impact. The young animal reached the far side of the root. The tapir stood fully upright. Its ears continued flicking. Thousands of ticks still remained across its head, back, belly, and flanks. The short interaction had removed only a small number. The tapir left the clearing and moved toward a rough-barked tree. The coatis followed at a distance. They did not walk directly behind the animal's feet. The tapir pressed one side of its neck against the trunk. It pushed forward and dragged the tick-covered shoulder across the bark. Dry mud began breaking away. Small flakes fell into the leaf litter. The tapir rubbed the base of one ear and then shifted its weight against the trunk again. Several small ticks lost their grip and dropped with the mud. A swollen tick fell near the tree base. The rough movement also loosened a piece of bark. Dark beetles emerged from the exposed wood. One pale larva became visible inside a narrow crack. The adult coatis moved toward the fallen material. One collected a small tick from the leaves. The other caught a beetle beside the trunk. The young coati watched another swollen tick near the tapir's shoulder. Earlier, it had climbed onto the animal to reach the ear. Now the tapir was standing and shifting its weight beside the tree. The young coati did not climb again. It waited below the rubbing point. A fragment of bark dropped into the leaves. A beetle fell with it. The young coati caught the insect before the competing adult could reach it. The tapir rubbed its shoulder one final time. Another small cluster of mud and ticks fell from the coat. The adult coati reached the largest tick first. The young animal turned away from the competition. It pushed its muzzle beneath the detached bark instead. Two beetles moved through the damp wood. A pale larva twisted beside them. The young coati caught the larva and carried it away from the tree base. The tapir stopped rubbing. It stood quietly for a moment and then continued along the forest trail. The infestation was still severe. Dense patches remained around both ears and across the snout. Large areas of the neck, back, flanks, and belly were still covered. One short encounter could not remove that many parasites. The coatis remained near the clearing. They searched the tapir's resting impression and the base of the rubbing tree. Ticks, beetles, and larvae had become accessible for different reasons. Some had been removed directly from the tapir's skin. Others had fallen during the animal's movements. More insects had been exposed beneath mud and bark. The young coati ate the larva beneath a root. It had not won every competition. It had nearly been trapped beneath the tapir's foot. But after the near miss, it changed the way it approached the same feeding opportunity. White-nosed coatis have been reported removing ticks from Baird's tapirs. The coatis gain concentrated animal prey. The tapir may receive limited relief from external parasites, but the interaction does not require friendship or coordinated teamwork. Each species responds to an opportunity that benefits it independently. The tapir tolerated the animals for a time. The coatis exploited what became accessible, and when the giant finally moved away, the small hunters returned to the forest floor. The opportunity had ended. Their search for the next meal had already begun.